I have always thought to myself that when I die, it will be in January. The rest of the year is just too lively, and that life sustains me all too well to slip away on any other month. This time of the year just gives me energy. It just feels good to exist on the cusp of summer, just like the flower buds that are all racing to burst open and the fruits that are inching ever closer to ripeness. There's an energy in the air that says the joys of long, hot summer days are almost here. This past week, we were so busy. It was my birthday week, and it was so nice to take a moment to celebrate and feel the love from my friends and family. I'm really blessed to have so many kind people in my life these days. When I was new to motherhood and I moved across the country to live here, I had a few years of feeling really isolated and alone. And I'm so glad that those years are behind me now. It's crazy how the path of life wanders through so many different phases and stages. I remember spending afternoons just wondering if this was it, if this part of my life was just supposed to be the sad part. But spoiler alert, it's not, and it wasn't, and I feel like this is truly the best part now. God had a plan. I'm so happy to be where I am today. Those quiet days of early motherhood seem almost like a fever dream now. I want to cling to this part of my life and not let it slip away. I cherish each day with my family. As the saying goes, the days can be long, but the years are certainly short, and I'm trying my best to savor each and every one of them. So this is 33. But let's get back to the garden. As I mentioned, this week was very busy. Aside from birthday celebrations, we were planting. I got some beautiful birthday flowers that needed to go into the ground, and I had some transplants that couldn't wait any longer, so we had to bust out the shovels and get digging. The tough thing is, I feel like I'm running out of places to put things already. Thankfully, we still have a few grassy spots that we can take over, so that's what we're doing now. We're digging and dirting and planting and mulching. This is a Japanese black tomato. I'm super excited to see how the fruits will look in real life. I didn't Google any photos, I just read a description and tried to imagine it in my mind, so we'll see how they come out. I also have some hollyhocks here that will be spreading around because why not? I'm really hoping that they take hold and kind of reseed themselves every year or come back up. I'm not exactly sure what they're supposed to do where I live. Some people say that they come back every year and others say they'll reseed and then you have to wait. So anyway, I guess we'll just see what happens. Because because they are truly little compost machines. With such a small urban lot, we really don't have a ton of room for a huge compost pile here, but the chickens kind of remedy this issue by pulling double duty for us. They will not only eventually produce eggs and companionship, but any food scraps given to them will quickly be composted, which is great. The bedding and the dirt from their home and their run is just about the best garden dressing around, and it's pretty much free. Also this week, Evelyn started a flower stand. If you're new to my channel, Evelyn is my 8-year-old daughter. She's been watching a lot of episodes of You Can't Eat the Grass here on YouTube, and they have a farm stand on their property. She was inspired to make her own urban farm stand to rival it, so she sat out all afternoon making bouquets and then set them up on a chair with a little sign. So cute. I love her entrepreneurial spirit, and I pray that she gets some customers for her $2 arrangement. After just a few days in business, she now has out some of our herbs and our kale overflow that's awaiting its first customers. So last on the agenda this week, I'm trying to find a way to preserve all of these tomatoes, and it's so early in the season. I don't really feel like canning. I have too much going on, so I don't want to try to can them all. And plus, I have fresh tomatoes constantly coming in, so who really wants to eat canned tomatoes? So I'm gonna try out a few different ways of preserving these that will either one, help me with prep time. So if I just need something that's quick and ready to go, I'll have it. And then also things that help to enhance the flavor, but also preserve the tomatoes. So the first thing I'm gonna do is freeze some of them. So I'm just gonna give everything a wash, and then I kind of dry it with a little hand towel. And I'm going to just dice them all up. And yes, I'm using a bread knife. Do it like a little dice so they're ready to use if I want to make sauce or salsa or pizza sauce or you know, whatever, soup, whatever. And then I'm going to freeze them flat in Ziploc bags. So the second way that I'm going about preserving these is with my dehydrator. I'm making like a sun-dried tomato, but obviously it's not actually sun-dried. I have this cheap hydrator. It's pretty small. I had like a credit at some online store and I got it with that. So it's not anything fancy, but it works. You could also dehydrate things in your oven. It just takes a little bit longer. It's like not as consistent, but you can totally do it. The prep is pretty much the same. Of course, wash all the tomatoes. Just try to cut them into pretty uniform slices. It doesn't have to be exact, but as long as it's pretty close, because you want the drying time to be pretty similar for each piece. And when you set them on the dehydrator tray or your pan or whatever you're using, if you have like the ends, put them skin side down because they have a tendency to kind of stick. You can see I just pulled some off of here. I'm just using this to show you, but you can see it can kind of stick to the tray. And then the last thing that I do before I kind of put them in there is I just sprinkle a little bit of salt over it. These have been dehydrating about 10 hours, so they still have a bit to go because you can see they're still sort of wet. They're not going to store very well that way. They will mold. So definitely need to have some more time to go. And then with this kind of machine, if you have one or you're thinking of getting something like inexpensive like this, it's not consistent drying like everywhere. Like if you look in the middle shells, you can see those are like way more wet than the ones on the top and bottom. Just make sure you rotate. So the last way I'm going to preserve some of these things this week is by making lacto fermented tomatoes. I'm just going to start by, this is a clean jar. It's washed with hot soapy water and dried. Of course, you always want to do that stuff. And then I'm going to just put a few garlic cloves in here for good measure because they taste good. Ta-da! The next step is I'm gonna make the brine, and I'm doing this 2 cups of water at a time. No matter whatever size vessel you have to put your tomatoes in, you know this brine will work. So you need to have non-iodized salt, just anything that's like a pure salt. For every 2 cups of water, 2 tablespoons of salt. And then just, you know, stir it real well. And the next thing you want to do is take your tomatoes and make sure that they're super clean. And I'm just going to go about sticking them in the jar and kind of pushing them down. This is actually really good to do with cherry tomatoes, but I don't have any yet. I'm doing this whole, so they're going to kind of take up a lot of space, but it's okay. And as I go sticking them in, I'm going to just take that brine we made. I'm going to pour all that in. The only real rule you want to follow besides the ratio of the salt is you need to make sure that everything stays covered by the brine. Just want to make sure that all that stays down. Now, the pressure of these tomatoes on one another is going to kind of hold this under the brine. So I'm not too worried about it, but if you had like a really large container or something, you could always use like a heavy plate or some sort of lid that went down in there, just any kind of weight to make sure everything stayed under the water. Okay, I think we got it. Stay, no. Okay, we're gonna try to go for this side. All right, now the last rule is you don't want to put the lid on tight because you want it to be able to off gas. Really a plastic lid is best for this, but this is what I have now. So I'm just gonna lightly put on a metal lid. I'm gonna just let this sit out in my kitchen for about 3 weeks. It takes 3 weeks to complete the ferment, and then I can just put it away and store it until when I need it. So super easy. I'm pretty happy with this week's tomato spread. I'll go over it now. So I've got about a pint jar or so of dehydrated tomatoes, 2 gallon size bags and 1 sandwich bag for freezing that are all diced and ready to use. This is our bowl of tomatoes to eat for the week with a snack for my daughter right now. We have 2 jars, Lacto Fermenting. Finally, I have these discards for the chickens, which were just sort of imperfect. You can see there's cracks and soft spots and stuff on them, so the chickens will like that. Not a bad spread for 1 week. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out with me here, and I will see you all in the next one. Thanks.